Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Amy.
We both grew up with dads who drank too much.
So we are both adult children of alcoholics.
And we're here to talk about our experiences using honesty and some pretty dark humour. We'll be chatting to a variety of people affected by alcohol addiction.
Our dads were both called Steve and they're both dead now, which means we can finally have the conversations we've wanted to.
You had to go there already, didn't you?
We've had a lot of experiences between us and we are both really passionate about helping other people.
So let's sit back, relax and join us with Sarah and Amy, Children of Alcoholics podcast. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Sarah and Amy, the Children of Alcoholics podcast. Today we are joined by Sarah Fellows. Sarah is a mama-free physio and somatic therapist. She weaves in nervous system regulation to her treatments of chronic pain and MS. She's passionate about holistic healthcare and is a lover of movement and nature. Sarah reached out to Nacoa for the support in the latter stages of her mum's struggle with alcohol addiction. When her mum died from addiction in May, Sarah wrote a song with a friend, which was then gifted to Nacoa. Subsequently, Sarah has done her foundation training to become a message board mentor with Nacoa. Sarah, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I just want to say as well that I've listened to the song on repeat hundreds of times and I absolutely love it. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear more about it and where your inspiration came from to write that.
So, Sarah, your mum Del died in May of this year. So you're quite new to the club. I'm going to say welcome, but obviously we appreciate that no one wants to be in the club with us.
It's a bittersweet club, isn't
Thanks for having me in the club.
But we are very, very pleased that you are here and that you kind of found Nacoa and you reached out and hopefully kind of got help and support. And I know you've just done the training that we've been doing as well. And
yeah,
kind of that coming together with other people who know what you've been through and resonate with you. Has that been important?
Very, because for me, I didn't want to cry straight away and I'm not going to. Come on, hold it together. For me, you know, when you're going through it as a child, you feel completely alone, like you're the only one in the world that's struggling with it. So to meet so many people who have been so supportive, but also to share kind of the stories of to share stories, just is so comforting. And that has been really, really amazing in my kind of, my healing, I suppose, and my dealing with the grief of it all. Because the grief is so complex. It's not just losing a parent, it's the loss of the parent you wanted. And
yeah, the grief is a long
process.
Yes, it's really strange because you grieve that parent for such a long time whilst they're still physically present.
Yeah.
But it's a very complex grief because me, I'm talking for myself. I absolutely just wished it to be over for, at periods for so many years. And then when it was over, it turned out that actually wasn't over. It was just the start of something else. And I felt so guilty for the times I had just wished that he, would die. I mean, I always knew that alcohol would kill my dad.
Yeah.
It was just a case of when and how. So you kind of live with that really high anxiety for such a long time. And I didn't have that anymore. But then it was just different grief and different anger and different anxieties. Yeah. So it just changed the landscape. It didn't make it actually, it wasn't sort of this magic sticking plaster that I had assumed it would be.
Yeah.
There's so many nuances as well, I find, when you lose a parent to addiction especially. And that's not to downplay other losses and the way other people have died. But I found for me, I couldn't properly start grieving until I dealt with the feelings of anger, relief. That sounds awful. Like I felt relieved when my dad died. And then I had feelings of shame and sadness and guilt.
Yeah.
I felt guilty that I felt relieved, and I felt guilty that I saw him 3 days before and I didn't call an ambulance. I felt sucked into the shame, and then all of those emotions that floor you And then all of a sudden you get over that and you're left at the end of it with no parent, and then you properly start grieving.
Yeah.
And it's almost a process, and it's not linear, and there are so many stages to it. And so many moments, I think, that can just floor you and take you by surprise. I don't think you ever properly get over it, do you?
But I think that's kind of what I've come to like just understand, is that I will always be sad about this, and that's okay. You know, like it's a horrible thing to have to have experienced and witnessed. And that sadness, it won't ever go away, and that's okay. You know, it's just, and I think, you know, the levels of grief that I have, I've done so much therapy, and the somatic stuff that I'm now trained in has helped me really, really feel the feelings that I never wanted to feel as a child. So I don't know how it was for your experiences, but I just kind of shut down as a child to kind of, you know, numb myself from feeling anything, and developed probably quite weird survival strategies that just got me through until adulthood. But then I realized that, you know, that dysregulation in adulthood was not going to serve me as a human and also as a mother. And it was actually when I had my children that I was, you know, I realized that I really had to deal with all of those things. And so it has been a real process in learning how to feel and not being afraid of feeling. And that has been really freeing, actually, to feel all those emotions that come with the complex grief. But it's just really fundamentally really, really sad and tragic, and crazy that I do actually feel like it's crazy that I've been part of it, because although this has been my experience, I don't actually, now in my life, I don't identify as someone who could have been a child of an alcoholic parent. Does that sound weird?
No, I was doing something at work the other day, and it literally, just as you've described it, I was like, oh my God, that actually happened to me.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is mad. And it literally was like, this is madness that I actually went through all of that, and that I ended up with a parent who was an alcoholic who then died. And yeah, it's just from nowhere. Nothing happened. Nobody said anything. Just from nowhere, kind of had this huge kind of dump over my head of, oh, wow, that was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know, when you talk about the numbing of the emotions, I would say that it's only recently that I've started to embrace emotions and recognize them. I was really guilty of that growing up. And what I would do is I would act out in ways, or if I was ever affected by anything, it could have been anything, I wouldn't have felt it, but my body would have reacted. So I would have been reacting to an emotion that I didn't understand what I was feeling, which sounds absolutely ludicrous, but that's just how I was. And it was the other day, and I haven't told you about this actually, Amy, but the other day, my husband got admitted into hospital. He's absolutely fine now. But they put us in emergency daycare treatment, and we walked up the stairs, and it was a new department, or it was just they'd taken over another ward. And I walked into the doors, and I stopped, and I went, oh God, this was the room. Oh my God, this was the room. This is where my dad died.
Oh my goodness.
And Reese looked at me, and I didn't feel anything, but I just burst out crying, and he's there getting tests done, and I'm the one at these doors going, I can't walk into that room because I can see that cubicle where there's a man lying in the same cubicle my dad was when he died. You can see the old board that says critical care unit, which is now emergency daycare, and I'm there having a big panic attack. My body's reacting, and I don't know why I'm upset. All I know is if I walk into that room, someone's going to die. And it was just the most weird, horrendous feeling of, I thought I'd gotten over all of this.
Yeah.
I thought I'd been like healed from all of the trauma, but it just bites you. It comes up, and sometimes just lays dormant in you for years.
Yeah.
Or
forever.
Depending, that's quite scary, isn't it?
So do you find in your work and the things you've been trained in, kind of exactly as Sarah said, the body kind of holding on to 100%. Trauma.
So I treat a lot of people with chronic pain and pelvic floor dysfunction, and a lot of that is rooted in trauma or survival stress and nervous system dysregulation. And so when you bring in a trigger, it will map back to a childhood event, which would be the root cause, and the body will react exactly as it reacted in the moment of when it happened. But the brain doesn't realize it's now and not then.
My God, that makes so much sense.
So you were having basically a trauma response from that event.
So what would you recommend from your experience in those situations? Because
you have to feel. Right, you have to learn how to feel. And so, I mean, life is triggering and stuff happens, but the most important thing is to allow your body to feel the response that it's happening rather than shut it down. But because we're humans and we have brains, we try and rationalize and cognize our way out of everything. But if you were a zebra and you'd just been attacked, you would shake, you would do whatever your body needed to do to let that survival stress come out of the body, and then you carry on grazing or doing whatever you needed to do. But because you're a human, you don't do that. Because we're conditioned, socially not to cry, anger's unacceptable, all of those sorts of things. But if you can let your body feel, really feel, it will move through you.
So I do quite a lot of yoga and things, and sometimes they'll say about certain poses, oh, this, kind of all your emotion is stored in your hips. And
yeah,
if you go into like a pigeon pose, that can actually make people quite tearful.
Yeah.
And I think like a camel pose where you go back as well, so they always say that. I've never felt any of those things, but that would be that sort of area as well, kind of around the pelvis and the hips.
So we know that the involuntary stress response would be to tighten your jaw. With that, you'd have a tight pelvic floor, then your body tightens, shoulders come up. But that's a stress response. But if you kind of extrapolate that into a chronic stress response, and that's your body all of the time, but it's become your baseline, so actually it's normalized and you don't know that that's happening, it can lead to pain, changes in your endocrine system, pelvic floor dysfunction, urinary issues, bowel dysfunction, IBS, and migraine, it's all linked. So my personal experience has definitely brought me into this work for sure, because somatic therapy for me has been literally game changing in terms of nervous system regulation, how I can operate as a professional adult, mum, whatever, but also feeling grounded. So when I was a child, I could never sit still. And the report that consistently my teachers would say, oh, she's okay at school, but she needs to stop rushing. And then I would get like berated by my family. My mum and dad would be like, you don't need to rush, just stop rushing. But what they were missing, because nobody really talked about nervous system regulation, is that I was literally in a fight-flight response. You're trying to run away. I was trying to run away from myself. But, there was no kind of tools then nobody was aware. So it's now when I've done my work on myself and I work in this field that I can look back and think, oh my God, yeah, my body was basically responding to this survival stress because I didn't feel safe in my home environment with my primary caregiver.
What was it like growing up with your mum? That's a tough, sorry. Is that okay? You don't have to answer that.
I will answer it. I have a really squeaky voice when I cry, so I need to not have the squeaky voice. It's a bit like the song says, like... There were amazing parts of her, and there were terrible parts of her.
Did you have siblings, Sarah?
Yeah, I've got a brother and a sister. And we've all been impacted in our own ways. I can only speak to my own story, but it's just so hard, isn't it, with a parent who's an alcoholic? I think particularly a mum, and I'm not, I know your dads were alcoholics, but that attunement with a mother is so important, And my dad, he is amazing. And when he was at home, I felt much more kind of stable, maybe safe in the environment. But he was in the military, so he was away a lot. And I don't know, there were just moments with my mum where, when I say moments, I mean literally like hours. I remember waking up feeling really like, oh, thank God it's the morning because I've got like 5 hours of her.
Yeah.
And then it would be like a fear that she was just going to disappear again.
But also, if your dad was having to travel, you were essentially, between the three of you, you were taking on big responsibilities, big caring responsibilities.
Yeah, we were. But I was sent to boarding school at a really young age. And I feel like there's a real like sliding doors experience with that, because on the one hand, being away from her gave me a sense of safety. But on the other hand, I like, you know, because she couldn't attune to her children at their developmental stages that they really needed. And she had no awareness of this. She was gripped by this alcohol addiction. She really was. But and I'm very lucky that I didn't experience any physical abuse, but the emotional neglect, I think, is like huge for a child, isn't it? So being at boarding school was good from a kind of a stabilizing point of view. You know, I had a sense of safety there. But those moments that I was a full-time boarder, so I didn't go home for like a couple of months or whatever. And I was 6 at the time when I went. And my brother and sister also went. But when you'd phone up at that time of the evening when you knew she'd just be hammered. And so that 6-year-old just doesn't get a chance
and
to
you're
have
so
that.
anxious as the phone's ringing, and you can tell the tone of the voice, and you can
I could tell like literally to the half glass of wine how much she'd had.
Even just one word, even hello.
And I just remember my heart absolutely sinking, like just like.
It's the tone, it's the silences they give, it's everything. It's just you're so attuned to it.
Yeah.
And you become hyper aware and hyper alert of your environments all the time.
Yeah.
Of everyone. You can walk into a room and just pick up moods and environments.
Yeah, and I still have that now. I'm super sensitive to people's energy. And I think, and I don't know about you guys, but I often think, well, that has to be something to do with me.
Yes.
Like it's what have I done to make that person have a lower energy? But that's what I was trained to believe as a child is, or that's your kind of default. You know, as a child, you're never going to accuse your primary caregiver of not being enough, because that is hugely psychologically destabilizing for a child. You're always going to blame yourself because that's the safer thing to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I, you know, I was never good enough. Like, she drinks because I'm not good enough. That's more important because we're not good enough. And that's that's what you take into adulthood. And now I know that's not true. Like, I don't have that core belief, but it's taken me decades to actually get to a belief system where I actually physically, viscerally, somatically feel that is not true. But when I'm in a group of people, I can sense people really acutely. And I don't know if that's good or not good or whatever. But
I agree. I often call it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I find for me, I can overdo it sometimes. I used to have this terrible habit, which was, it had an effect on my relationship with my husband, actually, I'm not going to lie, where if he was in a mood, and we're all entitled to, we don't have to be happy all the time and enthusiastic and full of energy. We can be tired, we can be a bit grumpy. But whenever he was in one of like a grumpy or tired mood, he works shift, he might have finished a night shift and he might have been a little bit more tetchy, I would always go on the defense. What's wrong? What have I done? Why are you in a mood? Why are you in a mood with me? And he'd go, I'm not in a mood with you. I'm just tired. I know you're in a mood with me. And then it would build and build and build. And then he'd go, well, I weren't, but I am now because you keep asking me. I'm not in a mood. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
And we'd argue over it. But I was so hyper alert and hypersensitive to moods that it would just make me feel uncomfortable. And I'm having to do a lot of work to, even now I'm on a journey with it, I'm having to do a lot of work to identify that it's not me, it's not me, it's them. And people are entitled to feel.
Yeah.
And
you're not responsible for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm having to unpick all of that now.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach my children, like, that's not a you problem, that's a them problem.
Yeah, you can give it back.
I'm very good at talking the talk to my children to try and make them not feel it.
That's you breaking the generational curses, isn't it?
Then it does backfire, like when you've got the younger one saying to the older one, it sounds like a you problem to me, and like all hell breaking loose off the back of it. But
I can imagine Sam doing that.
Did you find, and you're right, obviously Sarah and I both lost our dads to addiction rather than our mums, but all of us have, all of us are now mothers. Did you find it hard when you then had your own children?
Yeah, because I was just like, I really don't want to fuck them up. Like that. I was like, I really don't want to fuck these kids up. But I probably will to a greater or lesser extent.
We all do.
Yeah, I know. It's just like the human condition, isn't it?
I remember being quite angry when I had my daughter first. And she's looking and just go, I just don't think I could ever, and I know now, and that is not to judge anybody who finds themselves in addiction with children, because I don't believe anybody ever sets out to become an addict. But when she was very little, I just remember just looking at her and just thinking, I would never do that to her.
Yeah, or jeopardize.
Yeah,
and
that's a very glib thing to say now, because my understanding has changed a lot. But I was so annoyed with my dad when I had my children, because I did feel like, and I actually still can sometimes feel it, like I did absolutely feel like he had chosen to continue down that path rather than seeking help.
Yeah.
And it made me so angry that he had never tried to stop. Yeah. Probably angrier than I think I'd ever been with him up until that point.
Yeah, anger was definitely a big emotional feature, but it was also very suppressed. I remember not being allowed to show anger, really, that it was not okay to show anger. And so I had a lot of pent up anger. And I think children, when you have them, they are, they're very revealing. They're almost like a mirror. They reveal like the worst parts of you that need to be worked on. Do you know what I mean? So when I had my son, it revealed how much work I needed to do to come out of this activated state in my nervous system, because I could not sit still with him and I got bored with him. And that was not okay. I wanted to be able to really engage with him and play with him. And I think and he's 9 now. So that's when, the majority of the somatic work really took off, and I've been almost doing it for almost a decade now. So the person that I was then, and I was highly addicted to exercise, I needed to feel something other than numbness or the void that you feel inside, that you're not quite whole. Do you know what I mean? And so I would use exercise basically to beast myself and hurt myself. And I got to the point where I just broke my body down. I was ill all the time, and my period stopped for a year. I was in adrenal fatigue. I was really not very well. And so having children has made me kind of like really think about that. And, that they basically pushed me into the therapy because I wanted to be a better parent. I didn't want to make the similar mistakes. And I honestly can sit here and say that I have absolutely no blame for my mum. Like I've moved through that. I have a lot of compassion for her. I wish that she could have seen or really felt the other side, because the other side is a gift, to feel whole, to feel that you can sit and just appreciate and really feel kind of how immersive a life experience can be for whatever those emotions are. And if you break it down, we're like literally just bags of sensations, aren't we? Just feeling everything. But if she could have just allowed herself to do that, she would have really known that it was okay to just feel and to work through the stuff to get to the other side, because it's possible. And I'm sad that she didn't get that chance.
Do you think that was did she ever seek help? Was there any conversations around help, mental health?
So there was one moment where I just kind of grabbed her by the hands, and I was an adult by this point, and I was just like, you don't need to do this anymore to yourself. You don't need to drink. And she goes, okay, I'll go to the GP. And I was like, oh my God, wow, it's incredible. I've never seen this. She goes, if you'll go with me, I'll go to the GP. We went to the GP, and the GP was phenomenal. Unfortunately, this GP was a, what's the word for those ones? A locum. Mm-hmm. And she really listened to my mum. My mum admitted for the first time that she had an alcohol problem, and she was referred to a counsellor who basically said that she didn't have an issue and that she should just cut down by a couple of drinks a day. And I was just like, this is the biggest missed opportunity ever. And I was kind of heartbroken at that point. I was like, there's no reining her back in now. Because she had basically this counsellor gave her...
Was she been given the green light then?
Yeah, like carte blanche to... Yeah. I don't have an issue. It's all on you. And actually, she said to me not long after that, she was like, get over it, Sarah, just get over it. And it was like she was saying, I'm going to do this and just deal with it because I'm not changing. And she didn't. She was medically withdrawn in hospital just once. And then her health was really deteriorating by that point.
So they had, if you have to be medically withdrawn, my dad had that, then you've got a problem.
Oh yeah.
How can
it was obvious to everyone, and it was actually really kind of like validating that the doctors were like, all of her health issues are because of the alcohol. Because I don't know how it was for you, but you grew up thinking, okay, I was being gaslighted.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is your problem. I don't have an issue. She was very good at turning things around, and even like drama close queen. To her death, I still got that childlike sensation of like. And thought of, oh my God, is this all in my head?
But even
that.
Up
and
until,
then I was like, no, Sarah, no, you've been here before. And it was a very like an early childhood memory of like,
I really
this is all in your head.
For them to add alcoholism onto my dad's death certificate, which now, like 4 years down the line, just not an argument that I needed to have. But I pushed and I pushed and I pushed.
We did too.
Because I wanted it there in black and white that I hadn't been the mad one.
Yeah.
And so, it's got, again, so many health issues. And so many health issues for kind of a number of years leading up to it, kind of strokes and blood clots and stomach ulcers and... like his spine was crumbling and he had floppy heart valves and something going on with his throat. All of it was to do with every single one. The root cause was an addiction to alcohol. But I think it literally says like kind of coronary artery disease, something to do with a mitral valve and arterial fibrillation or something. But then I really said I want it there.
Yeah, we did the same.
Because it just
still come up on my dad's.
Yeah. I still felt like I was going mad, even when he was dead from it.
Yeah.
I remember him being admitted to hospital and the hospital phoning me and saying, we've got your dad. It's laughable, really. I was like, okay, just to let you know, he does have a problem with alcohol. And they're like, yeah, no, we know. But even then I was like, I didn't know that other people could see it.
Yeah.
It was so obvious.
Yeah.
You think you're the only one, don't you? 3 days before my dad died, I turned up to his house and he was frightened because he'd rang me and he was crying and he never did that. And I could hear the fear in his voice. And he was telling me that he was seeing his dad who had died 4 months previous. And I'm thinking, you're hallucinating. I said, I'm coming round, because he was telling me as well that he was vomiting blood. And I went round there and he looked a bit yellow and he was shaking. And I said, right, I'm calling you an ambulance because I think you've got liver disease. And he shouted at me and laughed at me, swore at me, told me that under no circumstance would he get into an ambulance and that if he wanted to get off this, he could. I was being dramatic. I could stop on Monday. I'm not going to go to a hospital and waste doctor's time. I've done this to myself. And I couldn't handle it any longer, so I walked away. And then 3 days later, he was on life support machine. Yeah, and we was turning him off. And it took so much. When I said earlier on about the guilt, I felt so guilty. I felt when we turned him off, I felt like the police were going to come knocking at my door and arrest me. because I felt like I'd killed him.
Oh my gosh.
I felt
that's
like
huge to carry.
I hadn't called an ambulance. I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? But even though he was telling me he was vomiting blood and he was yellow and he was shaking, but when he kind of took that control back and said, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, you're being dramatic, I questioned myself.
Yeah, but again, it's going back to that child-parent dynamic, isn't it? That won't ever go.
Yeah, no, and it didn't.
But,
and I
but
just
the guilt and the pressure that you carry as that child is huge. And I think children of alcoholics, they carry that from such a young age. And I think, you know, one of the positive things is that, like, so I'm super resilient.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I can carry a lot and take a lot. But I am super sensitive. And so it doesn't take that much to kind of push me over a little bit. Yeah. So it's this constant kind of like...
They almost seem contradicting, don't
almost
they?
like a balancing act of the two.
One of my friends was really ill over the summer. And out, like it's a group of friends. And she was very poorly. And her husband phoned me first in like quite an acute moment in it. And it was like, I know what to do. I know exactly what to do in this situation. But then weirdly, we've talked about it since. I was like, I'd have been so annoyed if you'd phoned anyone else first. So it's I still have that need to be in charge and feel like I get kind of validation from being that one who organises everything and sorts out all the problems and sorts out the care. Is there on the ground to help. But it was like the phone rang and I picked up and it was all very unexpected. And it was for a minute like the world stopped. And I just remember saying to him, start from the beginning, because I need to absorb all the information. But my head's already 10 steps on, like, okay, well, this is what we now do.
Yeah.
But also I'm so pleased it's me, because that's made me feel really special and important. And you need me. Yeah. Like I do have this huge thing of kind of needing to be needed.
Oh, 100%.
Which has got me into a lot of trouble, not least because I ended up being like chair of the PTA for like 4 years.
Oh my days.
I know, right?
Fair play.
Which
that is something
I hate it. It was like this thing of like, okay, how can I be useful?
Nailed it.
How can I be useful? No, I think they absolutely hated me. I ran it with like a rod of iron. But
I just let her take control of this podcast.
Yeah, like what can I do to be the most useful version? Because that is what I can bring to the party.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no surprises that I've gone into the job that I've gone into, because like being completely open and honest, I get external validation from the work that I do, like to help other people. It's a people pleasing thing, isn't it? Like you want to make a difference to somebody else's life and oh my God, I did that. You know, although I'm giving people the tools for them to do it themselves, there is this element of I needed you to do it.
I wonder if it's like you get the validation from helping somebody because you couldn't help that parent. I'm sure that's 100%. Absolutely where it stems from. 100%. Well, I couldn't help them, but I can help everybody else. I
was just sat here thinking, I don't think my job does that. And when you said that, I thought, I campaign, like fiercely campaign against stigmas attached to alcohol addiction to help other people.
Well,
so technically, I am consumed by that.
But you know, that I think that's totally fine. You know, as long as like there's an awareness about it, it's absolutely fine. Like we all have egos, and we need our ego.
And needs gently massaged.
Yeah, exactly. And external validation is fine. And if there's lots of good that come out of it, then also really good. I like the fact that I'm in service to other people. And I can make a difference to other people. And it's amazing to be able to do this, to turn something that was so awful into just something slightly better, you know?
So after Del, your mum died, you wrote a poem.
Yeah, I did.
And then a friend of yours helped you. Yeah,
so I wrote this poem I remember writing this poem in the depths of grief. It was really, really raw. And I just wrote these words down, and I wanted to say the poem at her funeral, but I knew that I wasn't going to get through it. And actually my older sister, who kind of reins me in a lot, she's kind of like, Oh, I won't say that actually. She does rein me in a lot, but she read the poem and she was like, I think this is a bit raw to say at her funeral. And I was like, okay, let's just set some ground rules. At her funeral, I really need this to be truthful. You know, when you go to some funerals and you're like, who? That doesn't sound like
I think I'm in the wrong room, guys.
Yeah. And I wanted it to be really honest because it was validating for our experience. And so we didn't gloss over it. My sister did the celebration of her life, and she, you know, we mentioned her career. She was a dentist. She was incredibly talented. And she, you know, she showed us glimpses of an amazing woman, you know, totally capable and loving and all of those things, but it was temporary glimpses. But what was very interesting, and I'll get back to the poem in a second, is that there were some of her ex-colleagues at the funeral who had absolutely no idea that she was an alcoholic. And so her dental nurse was in bits, and I found myself kind of holding her hand going, I know this is a real shock to you, but it's okay. You know, I was kind of consoling her because she just couldn't believe it. And she was just like, I just can't believe the words your sister was saying, because she used to talk about how proud she was of you all. And I was like, well, we never heard any of that. You know, she never told us she was proud of us or whatever. We were never enough. It was like, always, you've got to do more. You've got to do more. And so you constantly trying to, you know, overachieve to try and get the I'm proud of you moment from your mum, which doesn't ever come. Anyway, so I was there with her dental nurse consoling her at the funeral. But I'd written this poem to say at the funeral, but I just knew that I wasn't going to get through it. I mean, you can see I started crying straight away. So, you know, it's just never going to happen. It would have sounded awful. So I've got this amazing friend, Josh Record, who is a singer-songwriter, and he's so busy. And so I thought he would say, no, I can't do this. I'm sorry. But within 24 hours, he'd turned this poem around into this song. I think
if you play the dead alcoholic mum card to someone, they're generally going to try and help you.
But my mum just died. My childhood was awful.
I can't play the cards. I played the cards heavily.
Well, actually, Josh had said that he tried to do something similar for one of his family members who had passed away, and he and he couldn't do it. Like he had like a creative block. And so I thought that it was never going to happen. And then when he sent me this song through, I was just like, wow.
It's amazing.
He just made the words come
alive.
Yeah, and so it was played at the funeral. And so that was great for me because I could just listen to it, and his voice is beautiful, and the lyrics were written in the order of service, and so people could just read my words. And yeah, that was great. And then afterwards I was just like, this song is going to be for me personally. There's no way I'm putting it out there because I didn't want to feel that vulnerable. And also, like, although I'm on social media, I feel like it can be the devil's work, and I'm so sensitive that I just didn't want any comeback on it, because you never know what's going to happen, do you? But I played it to some of my close friends, and Josh had played it to his mum. And then over a period of about, 4 months, I got this trickle of, this needs to be heard. You can't keep this to yourself. Multiple different people. And you know, when you hear that enough, you're like, okay, I'm being signposted to like give it away.
As soon as I heard it, and Pierce said the same, like Pierce sent it to me, he's like, oh, listen, you need to listen to this song. Let me know what you think. We're going to do something with it. And I was like, oh my God, Pierce. And I had all of these ideas. This is amazing. And he said, I know. He said, you know, we get a lot of songs, but this one, there's something about this one. And I could totally hear what he was talking about. I mean, I've got a lot of musician friends, a lot of people that write original music, and I mean, they're all great. But there was something very, I don't want to say, I want to say mainstream, but then I don't want to diminish it. But
catchy.
It's catchy. Yeah, it's catchy, it's beautiful, it's relatable. And I think you connect with it. And I think anybody can connect with it and base it off a variety of different experiences.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it so universal almost. Yeah. It's a very powerful, very beautiful song. I almost want to play it now because I think people are going to be, I mean, we can't, can we? We can play it at the end.
But how do you feel now? Because obviously that was written like absolutely in the eye of the storm, as you put it earlier.
Yeah.
Like now with that, and you know, again, it is really recent. Does it still reflect it? Does it take you back to that dark place? Do you feel differently about the the poem now? Does it kind of resonate differently?
Every time I hear it makes me cry. So there's obviously like, I'm still really going through it. But what I really feel genuinely is that like we wouldn't grieve if we didn't love this person. Like at the heart of it is just loved. I loved her.
And that's the thing, isn't it? They don't set out to become the people they become. And
there's just an unconditional love for this person who was my mum, and she didn't get it right.
And we all have the capacity to get things not right.
Yeah.
And
there's I honestly have no bitterness. I mean, probably there's still some anger there in some way, but honestly, I just have this love for her and just sadness.
And I think Sarah's dad died 2017. Mine was 2020. I still have that. And I have lots of other things. And actually my sadness is now kind of the realization of just how lonely he would have been.
Yeah.
And acknowledging that I kind of distanced myself at times because he seemed utterly resistant to wanting to admit to having a problem or seeking help, which was hugely irritating for somebody who likes to control everything because their dad was an alcoholic. But actually just sadness about not a lack of compassion, because I couldn't have done it differently for me because he was really hard work and I found it such hard work. But I just wish I'd understood a little bit more about it. I wish other people had been kinder.
Do you know? Yeah, that's true. I wish I had been kinder to her.
Yes.
But you only know what you know.
Yes.
And as a child, I just remember throwing alcohol down the sink thinking, okay, that's going to help. That will help if I just get, it's just one less glass, then it's one less glass to hurt her body.
But then in the same breath, if you had a friend that was treating you the way that, often our parents did or the way they made us feel, you would walk away without any guilt. It's so complicated.
It is such a it is such a complicated relationship. And also it's the real understanding now that I don't think I ever knew, I don't know her. I never knew this person who was my mother.
No.
And, talking to her university friends who were at the funeral, the way they describe their friend when they met her, I'm like, who is this woman? Like, who had Che Guevara posters on her wall and was like, she was like, feminist. And from what they've told me, like this person was just totally different from the woman I knew. And I feel sad that she never got to really reveal who she really was as a person. And there must have been a lot of fear with that. And she would have been totally accepted had she showed herself. And I think that's part of, the verse where it's like, there's the place in my mind where we, show each other who we are without any judgment. It's just sad.
Do you think the times they grew up in were very difficult to be themselves though?
Yeah, she was brought up Catholic.
Right, yeah.
And it's like the generation who were kind of like brought up by the generation who were from the Victorians. Yeah. So like the style of parenting was so different. Child psychology wasn't even a thing. Back then they didn't think babies experience pain. It was like,
children are seen and not heard.
All of that stuff. And so she had massive self-esteem issues. There were so many things that happened in her life that I've kind of heard through my siblings and my dad that she never dealt with. And so there's just no blame. It's just this passing down of, a trauma cycle, but it takes somebody within the family to break that cycle. And I guess that's what my job is on earth. That sounds like a huge thing, but even if I could do a little bit, then it will make a difference for the next generation.
So just to make you cry and feel slightly more anxious, obviously we're going for the Christmas number one with the song.
I don't see why it couldn't.
It could. But you are coming up, and I don't want to point out the obvious, you are coming kind of up to your first Christmas without your mum.
Yeah.
And my dad died in the September, and obviously that was quite close to that period. And I remember actually feeling very guilty because I was just quite excited that I wasn't going to have to deal with it that year for the first time, because Christmas was absolutely horrific for so many reasons.
We never had a good Christmas.
No.
It was always drink fueled and aggressive at the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it was.
Yeah. We, you know, driving when you shouldn't. The morality, like I'd know my dad would be driving to my house to stay, and I didn't want him to stay, but I also didn't want him to drive. I didn't want him to be on his own, but I knew he was driving and shouldn't be. And if he wiped out on the motor, like the morality around that, should I report? It was just, there were so many different stresses around that time. And I actually really looked forward to that first Christmas, 12 weeks after he died. And then I felt really guilty for looking forward to the Christmas. And I did not feel any loss at that table that year. And then I felt really guilty about that. And so I'm just waffling and just wondering how you are feeling about.
We're really quite similar, to be honest, because my only constant in my life really has been worrying about her. And so actually when she died, it was a very destabilizing feeling, because I was like, my true north of worry has gone. Like my point of reference has disappeared. But actually now I've, again, somatic work, kind of like regulated that and worked through it. I feel really like relieved. And you know, I'll be really happy that I don't have to look for the hidden glasses of wine. And particularly now I've had children, and we did have an incident where, you know, she was hiding glasses of wine in my house where they were in reach of my children. And I was just like, phew. And at that point I did reduce how much she was seeing the kids or spending time with them, because I just couldn't trust that she wasn't going to expose them to the drinking that I'd been exposed to. I just didn't want that for them. So there's that, you know, I don't have to look for it. I don't have to worry about it. I can focus on my children, and it doesn't have to be drink fueled. It's, you know, it's a real new start, and that feels really good. And actually I don't feel any guilt for feeling like that. I just feel great for that. Grateful.
I'm pleased for you, because that's how I felt. And honestly, I think
maybe on Christmas Day I'll feel different.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Now,
but I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's okay for us to feel like that because of the experiences. Yeah. And Christmas is so difficult. I mean, for lots of people, for lots of different reasons, but particularly if you are kind of affected by somebody's drinking, it, for me, was the most stressful point in the calendar for the whole year.
Yeah.
And, you know, the imagery of everybody else having this amazing time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a very triggering time of year. But I feel like with my kids, I'm like making new, much healthier memories.
Yeah, you've almost got that's your own family.
Yeah, and actually, what I had a real, quite a powerful penny dropping moment a couple of weeks ago when I was just like, as a child, you have no choice but to be part of the experience around you. So you've got no choice but to be immersed in that narrative. But as an adult, you've got a choice to get off that roller coaster and accept that the narrative is part of you, but you don't have to be part of it anymore. And when you actually, again, it's a feeling, it's a real belief, like that is so powerful. I can totally change the story and, you know, and not have those things impact me in unhealthy ways anymore. And for sure, it's like an onion skin I'm peeling, like there'll be layers and stuff. But whilst those layers are coming off and I'm getting back to my real purpose for being here, and that I don't have, you know, on earth, and that I don't have to be, I don't have to be controlled by that story anymore. That is a really great place to be. And I'm really grateful for that. Really grateful.
That's amazing.
Don't think there's a better way to end.
I don't think there is either. I just want to say how much admiration I've got for you, like so soon after you've lost your mum.
I think the processing has been like a lifetime.
Yeah, you grieve them before they've already died.
And like you said at the beginning, I kind of knew I was going to lose her to this. And so I think I've been preparing for the end for decades. Like, I don't even want to think like how young I was when I started thinking about her death. It was too young. But that's where the sense of fear and lack of safety comes in, isn't it? So I think, although it seems like I'm, you know, like, I don't want to say totally together, but you know what I mean? Like I've done so many years of processing. So yeah.
Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks
for coming. You're welcome to come and sit here and cry anytime.
I really didn't want to cry.
There's nothing
but I knew that I was going to cry.
We'll drop the link to the song in the bio for this podcast, but thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, and happy Christmas.